Hello, I hear we're live. Is that true? Yes, good. Welcome, everyone. Here we have a very, very small COVID audience that we are very excited to have the opportunity to have. So it is a blustery, drizzly day in October, which is perfect for the week of Thanksgiving. So we're excited to have you all here and online. Welcome to our Zoom friends. My name is Charlotte Poling. I am the fashion executive in residence for the Department of Fashion Design, which is housed in the School of Art and Design. That is a mouthful. Here at Lipscomb University, we are coming to you from the Shin Center. This is the Shin Creative Commons. It is the hub of all things creativity and artistry and storytelling for the students and the faculty of the College of the Entertainment and the Arts. Tonight, we're here to talk about sustainable fashion and tell the story of Jeff Garner, of his journey from the halls of our very own academy to becoming a leading global sustainability advocate and fashion designer. I like to say that Jeff Garner is a global sustainability advocate disguised as a fashion designer. He literally travels the world raising awareness via Prophetik, his all-sustainable fashion and lifestyle brand, with a mission to bring awareness to the principles of how clothing is produced, dyed, and distributed, and the effects these processes have on the planet and on our bodies. Jeff has gained widespread praise from both ethical and mainstream fashion media, whether he's dressing celebrities from the red carpet, hello Sheryl Crow, Taylor Swift, Jonas Brothers, being inducted to the Smithsonian, gracing the front page of the London Times, or producing custom collections for the royal family of Monaco. Jeff weaves sustainable and organic lifestyle into every garment with organic fabrications and all-natural plant and earth-based dyes. In fact, he just led 10 of our students in an all-natural dye workshop that literally just finished minutes ago. On a personal note, I have had an upfront view of Jeff's career in its entirety because he just happens to be my best friend's baby brother. With that, let's get started. Know that you will have the opportunity to ask questions via the Q&A chat for those of you who are online. From here, we will cut to a quick video and then on to our guest of honor, Jeff Garner. Enjoy.
My thing is bringing romance back into the fashion industry.
Stylish and sustainable. That's the message from ethical fashion designers.
Designer Jeff Garner dresses the stars and says it's all about style and being good to the environment.
We're based in Franklin, Tennessee.
It's an old Civil War town. You can't help but be influenced by your environment.
What he's doing as a designer, so connected to this place that he can be designing contemporary clothes, and yet somehow, down deep, they have roots to something else.
He was probably born in the wrong century, quite honestly. I used to call him Daddy's little girl.
He made the cutest little girl.
Yeah, thanks, Miss.
Oh, I had him dressed. Oh.
Maybe that's why I do such good dresses now. What do you think?
I love
Oh
it.
my gosh. It's beautiful.
It's the way I paid through most of my college was I got a Barbie commercial later.
That was funny. It was like the surfer dude Barbie.
Blaine Barbie was his name. He broke up Ken and Barbie.
Walking barefoot in the sand, making brushes with our feet.
Me personally, I invested every dime I saved up. You know, I couldn't even afford the gas to get here today. Flat broke. And it's times like that you think, oh wow, maybe I should have taken that big offer that was given to me.
I think until you accept that it's a business and not just a lifestyle, it can't work. You should want to make clothes that people want to pay for. You can't compete with H&M. If H&M wants to have Karl Lagerfeld do a week They'll do more business in 1 square foot of one store than you can imagine doing in a lifetime.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Is it Thanksgiving or is it Halloween week?
Did I say Thanksgiving?
You did say Thanksgiving. That's all right. That's what baby brothers are for, to fix that.
That's exactly right.
All right. So earlier we had a session on plant-based dyes, which we'll show you. I want one of you guys from each team to grab it, and we'll show it later if you guys don't mind. So, as Charlotte said, I'll give a quick background, and then we'll move into what I'm here about to speak about tonight, not about me, but about sustainability. But simply, yeah, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, come from an old Tennessee family, and actually my father's here tonight. So I did go to Lipscomb Academy in high school. I got myself kicked out of Ezel Harding and was accepted here, thank goodness. Yeah, so I was always doing design. I would hide myself in my bedroom, take apart clothes, put them back together. All my buddies in Nashville were musicians. And so they were like, be in our band. I said, no way, but I'll dress you. And that's how it began. So I'd jump on tour buses and have them bring me their favorite clothes, and I'd repiece them together. And, it's funny how bands sometimes don't connect visually. Audibly, they sound amazing, but then you look at them on stage, you're like, I'm sorry, a black t-shirt and ripped jeans, come on, we can do better. So that's kind of began, and then graduated from Lipscomb. They still asked me to cut my long hair, but I still walked anyways. And then went to Pepperdine University, and there I, gained more attributes. I went to school simply for my weaknesses. As you guys will get into fashion later, you'll realize, oh, I do need to speak in front of people. So you cannot necessarily be that artist introvert who just sits in his room and designs all the time, which is what I prefer. So believe it or not, I used to be so frightened of this, but I knew I would need this skill set to further the messaging. So most people ask, well, did you start doing sustainability that young? And I said, well, I did. I didn't add this on later to my brand. It was growing up on a horse farm. I just connected with nature, and I saw when I got into printing band t-shirts, I saw what that detail was, and these, I don't know if you guys know about it, but basically it's plastisol ink, right? So you're printing plastisol ink with the band names, etc. Goes through the dryer, off gases. So you get workers there that are, either wearing masks or not, getting sick, etc. And I was started asking questions, because as you can already tell, it was kind of the black sheep of the family, so I would challenge things, right? So I was like, okay, now I can use this for something good. I'm going to challenge why are you using this ink? Obviously, the staying power of plastisol ink, it doesn't wash out. But if anybody's touched those old band t-shirts, it's thick, it kind of makes you sweat. I mean, it's not a good thing. So I teamed up with this outfit out of Atlanta, Georgia, and Wilflex inks, and we started using organic pigment for that. So that was kind of a natural way of how I started thinking about production and design. Was that I didn't, I said earlier, I did not want to do anything that potentially could hurt someone or the environment we live in, because I love the horse farm I grew up on, and I didn't want to hurt the water streams that my horses are drinking out of or anything of that nature. So it kind of put me in that, thinking pattern. Briefly back, so I graduated from Pepperdine. I got hired by Barry Manilow's management, Stiletto Entertainment. So I started traveling with Barry, and they also handled Fleetwood Mac Donna Summer. So I started doing a lot of their band merchandise, stage clothing, etc., which allowed me this opportunity to travel the world and learn more about production and design and manufacturing. And then one day I said, okay, I'm done with this. And then I jumped ship and started Prophetik, which is what I have now. So as Charlotte said, we do catwalks around the world. We've done Shanghai, Paris, London. The idea is to showcase sustainable couture so that you can kind of showcase, and Amber, are you back there? So Amber is one of the local models I've used for years, and she's wearing one of the dresses that I did a collection with Scotland. So Historic Environment Scotland, they asked me to do, come to Scotland. They showed me all around, but they still are making textiles there. So you can see the lace here. The green is the linen. This is actually from a Freemason's coat, this piece here. And then the silk hemp, and you can see more of the lace and the linen there. So all this are making in Scotland. So obviously, you know, people aren't using local textiles much anymore. You're trying to go after the cheapest quality, synthetic, cheapest price point. So basically, people are using it for interior design, curtains, you know, couch covers, etc. So I turned them into gowns, and we showed it at Edinburgh Castle, this collection, and it was called Women of the Crown. So it was based on Mary Queen of Scots, same time that Mary Queen of Scots film came out. So it was a great project with historic environment, Scotland. So you'll find that art can merge itself with this idea that, you know, this government agency wanted to showcase their textiles are still making, but give it a different purpose. So you can take pieces of it and use it, you know, in different art projects and fashion and whatnot. So we ended up making these little cuffs that they were selling at Edinburgh Castle at the retail store, for example. So think about, you know, think as you design, think about outside the box. What can you create sustainably, but maybe not on a mass level, but something artisan that can be connected, right? And so it was the first time they've ever showed a catwalk at Edinburgh Castle. I mean, it was amazing. You know, we had a horse out front. I don't know if the video working now? Yeah, cool. So I'll show you guys in a minute, but we had a horse out front of the castle, and then we had a piper piping everyone in through the drawbridge. And then we had a violinist as everyone came into the banquet hall, which had no AC or heat, so we had wool blankets for everyone to sit down. And then we had an orchestra in there, and Roy Wooten from Nashville did the orchestration and made the music. And it was just a beautiful, lovely night. So anyway, so I've done projects like that around the world with different governments. Another dress she'll show you in a minute is we use Madeira Lace, but we'll talk about that after this. So what I'm about to show you is a documentary that was made, it's just a little trailer that Tennessee put together, actually, and it ended up winning an Emmy, so in the category of art. So it can show you, it's just a little tidbit, so. Yeah. Let's see if we can get this working. Should it just play now? Dress was dyed with indigo, guys. So, let's try it one more time. Yeah, there we go.
Jeff is the most real, proper American gentleman you could know.
Jeff is really looking carefully at not only the materials that he's using, but the dyes that he's using.
20 minutes after 6 months of all this hard work to show you what you've created in 20 minutes, and then it's done.
The doc is, you guys can watch it on Amazon Prime, but it's more about the artist's journey. We touch base on sustainability, and I'll touch base on it tonight. I know Charlotte said to keep it light, but my whole premise has been about not just, because everyone's like sustainability and green and eco and this and that, and you guys are sitting there as a student, you're like, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. So when I say it, and when most people in my category say it, it really means you're working with plant-based fabrications and dyes, right? So imagine having this wood wall, beautiful oak wood wall, and then you paint on it with toxic paint. It's no longer a beautiful wood, porous, natural wall, right? It is now a toxic wall. So if you can imagine that's happening in fashion, you could have an organic cotton t-shirt, but if synthetically dyed, well, it kind of takes away that natural property. And we'll talk more about it later, but things are porous in nature if they're natural. You guys were dyeing hemp boxers earlier, and there's basically studies, but if you guys know, most men's hemp boxers are made of polyester and nylon, right? So nylon was introduced in 1935. You can imagine, well, I'll back it up. So have you guys ever heard of biomimicry? Take that as a no. Okay. So biomimicry is a study of nature to gain, ideas, solutions to problems, right? It's not extracting nature, but it's looking at nature. Like, for example, they looked at, the hummingbird for a helicopter, right? Things like that. But you can imagine they looked at the properties during the war like they were running out of parachutes, for example. Parachutes were made out of, anybody know? Silk. So what took the place of silk? They studied silk and replaced it with nylon, right? Nylon's cheap, but it mimics exact properties. Designed in a laboratory, 1935, I believe, DuPont, one of their scientists. So what it did, it allowed us to have more parachutes, which we needed for the war. It was also cheap and manageable. And as you guys understood tonight, you know, natural plant-based stuff takes longer. It's more science into it. What happened was women after the war started wearing them for stockings. Silk stockings, now nylon stockings. But nobody studied the synergy of effect. What happens when you put that nylon on your body, right? All that to say, I'm not gonna get too much into it, but that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I want us to study this. We need more research on this. We're still wearing this fabrication that doesn't breathe. It's toxic. It's gotta hold things in. It's gotta put things in our bodies we don't need to have in our bodies. So, you know, I'll probably be taken out next year, but, you know, until then, I'm gonna keep spreading this message and awareness. So back to, that's why we do all these catwalks around the world and use these fabrications and do these dyes to showcase, as a designer, you can think outside the box and do things differently. So here we are, let's do the next one. So this goes more into the dyes you guys got into tonight. But basically every color, again, biomimicry, every color has already been created by nature. Photosynthesis, as we talked about earlier, you know, these flowers take in the sun and they photosynthesize it and create this beautiful color to create the flowers that we see in everyday nature, right? So basically we're extracting that from the flowers and dyeing our clothes with it, which they've done for centuries, right? So why do we stop doing that? Because it's not cost effective and, you know, it takes a lot of labor intensity. So in today's society where we like to shop at fast fashion like H&M, Zara, etc., well, it's not price conducive. You guys can't get a new outfit for your date this weekend, you know, for, you know, $100. That's a little pricey. So that's like one of my garments, you know, one of the shirts would cost you, right? And that's a natural, true cost. And again, we'll touch on this lightly, but there's a reason why pricing hasn't gone up. You know, like I said earlier, t-shirts stayed at $7 today. They were $7 in the 70s. Why hasn't it gone up? Food's gone up, cost of living's gone up. You know, inflation hasn't happened because they keep moving the production around. So obviously you guys here, they produce in China, they produce, you know, in these third world countries. And you're like, well, so the fair labor that they're talking about isn't happening there. There's no regulation. So they're paying these guys peanuts to create this, right? But I want to show both sides of that, right? But you're also looking at cheap ingredients. When you guys understand the idea of organic food, it costs more because you know those ingredients are better for you personally. Well, the same with our fashion. You know, these plant-based dyes are going to cost more. They come extracted from plants. The hemp, the organic cotton, you know, it's not grown with pesticides. It's going to cost more because it's more labor intensive. All right, so you guys understand, I mean, but the problem is everyone says, Jeff, you know, you got a, you know, Emmy Award documentary, you know, millions of people watched it. You're doing all these shows around the world. Why isn't it changing? Why isn't it shifting? Well, it's not just about awareness, guys, or education. I can educate you guys tonight, but tonight are you going to go home and go through your wardrobe and get rid of those nylon spandex polyester boxers or underwear? Probably not. Why? Because we're addicted to cheap fashion. We're addicted to the price points. We're addicted to how something fits with all that stretch in it. You know, we love this pant so much, it makes us look good, right? We don't care what it's made of anymore. We've grown unattached to that thinking. So anyways, so let's go back to, this is just a quick video. got the black. So logwood is a bark, right? So you don't have to do much to it. Just the warm bowl of water extracts it out. But the tannins are so strong, right? So, but briefly, we talked about why people aren't doing it, because if you want to, recharge the vats, you need science to it. So I've been to China. I've been to Xingtang, where they do all the denim dyeing, et cetera. We talked briefly about it. So I went over there as a designer, looking to do production, and we had a hidden camera. It was fun. We were back at scooters, running around, capturing stuff, until the minute we showed up and they're like, "Oh, you're the designer, Jeff, da-da-da." I'm like, how did they know who I was? Then we got in the car, we took off out of there and got chased, because they don't want this to be seen or known. But we got both sides of it. I didn't want to be this sustainable designer speaking out against something and not seeing it firsthand. So I thought that was due diligence. So what I discovered was, yes, there are factories there that are saying they're complying. They have, certification on the wall, from certain companies they're working with, some major, companies over here. I won't mention who. But you would see that they're saying they're recycling their dye vats, meaning they're not just throwing it away in the river. They're supposed to clean out that water after they get through dyeing, and they funnel it back in. Well, we follow the piping down, it's concreted over, and then we saw where it was coming out down in the river. So Greenpeace has been over there a lot, and they've studied this, so we were able to have some traction there. So why do they not recycle the water? Obviously, there's a cost factor, right? So again, if you can just take a recipe, put in this color, and then when you're done, just dump it, because it's so cheap, and it's so less time consuming than to recharge the vat, do it all over again. Does that make sense? But it's not the factory's fault. Why? Because these big companies over here are pushing them to say, no, we need this, 10 cents cheaper. So this factory can't stay in business if they make it 10 cents cheaper. Does that make sense? So where does the buck end? Like, who's responsible for it? Well, the big company blames the consumer, saying, well, they don't want to buy our denim for $40, they want to buy it for $27.99, right? You can imagine who I'm talking about. Low price is guaranteed. Well, somebody's paying for that cheap price point. Imagine that. So again, the solution is that consumers, you guys, designers, are aware of this, and so you pay more. You charge 10 cents extra to have your water recycled when you're doing your, dyes, right? It's an easy solution. So again, it's more to this than what you can imagine. So sustainability is not just an easy thing to say. And these companies are picking out certain kind of marketing things to say they're doing this, and that's all good. But again, as a designer, you want to go deeper than that. You want to say, well, what does that mean? Where is this coming from? Everyone's talking about transparency now, right? So that's very important. So again, I talked about Greenpeace over there. So this last video I'll show you, it was called Detox. They did a detox campaign. They didn't go after the bigger guys, but they basically were showing what the bigger companies were doing and asked them to change. You can imagine that's a hard one, right? So this is Greenpeace in Amsterdam. So you guys can watch this really quick. I think I did that right. One more.
Fashion. Behind the beautiful advertising, the catwalk glamour, and the billion-dollar business lies a world that those inside the industry do not want you to see, and definitely don't want you to talk about. Dark, dirty, and full of invisible threats, this is a world founded on a toxic addiction that is slowly destroying our beautiful waterways. The facts are alarming. In China alone, 320 million people are without access to clean drinking water. 40% of the surface water is considered polluted. And a staggering 20% of the groundwater used as urban drinking water is contaminated, sometimes with carcinogenic chemicals. In Indonesia, our latest investigations revealed a textile facility releasing pH 14 water and a cocktail of hazardous and hormone-disrupting chemicals straight into the local water supply. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Just one of thousands of factories in Indonesia and around the world that are treating our public waterways like private sewers. And the problem runs deeper than that. The clothes we buy in Europe, North America, Asia, and elsewhere are all part of a global chain of toxic pollution. Two-thirds of clothing items tested by Greenpeace contain hazardous chemicals. And when these garments are washed, they release these substances back into rivers, lakes, and seas around the world. This makes us all part of the problem, but we can also be part of the solution. Around the world, activists, fashionistas, designers, bloggers, and models are joining together as part of the Global Detox campaign, united behind a common belief that beautiful fashion shouldn't cost the earth. Over 500,000 people have taken action challenging big brands including Zara, Levi's, and Victoria's Secret to take responsibility for their toxic footprint and eliminate all hazardous chemicals from their supply chains and products. And these major corporations are listening. From luxury houses like Valentino to fast fashion retailers including H&M, big brands are paying attention to the global call for toxic-free fashion. These brands are now beginning to substitute out the worst chemicals. They are also working with their suppliers and the chemical industry to develop solutions, creating a growing marketplace for non-hazardous alternatives. For too long, reckless industrial pollution has occurred in the shadows. By shining a light on the situation, we can accelerate the changes that are taking place. Polluting in the dark is unethical. Polluting in the full glare of the media spotlight is a PR disaster. There is still a long way to go, but our successes so far prove that when we join together, change is possible. Our message is clear. Those brands and suppliers that are transparent about their progress and that take credible and authentic action have an opportunity to win people's trust and loyalty. Those that choose to bury their heads in the sand or try to greenwash their way out of the situation face a more uncertain future. It is becoming easier than ever to spot these toxic villains and greenwashers, to share this information within our networks, and influence brand decisions for the better. The world is watching. It's time to detox.
You guys heard about this before? This is kind of a new idea. Kind of a new idea, right? Yeah, it's wild when you don't hear about this, right? I don't know if you guys read in the article lately, like, I think it was like 6 months ago, Delta Airlines, some of the stewardess were suing because their uniforms caused rashes on their bodies. So Zach Posen designed uniforms, but then Zach, they turned around and sued the manufacturer. But it's on the news. I mean, you guys could Google that, like, why did that happen? Well, obviously the uniforms are made of polyester, synthetically dyed. So there's some synergy happening, right? So again, just kind of think through that as you're designing, as you guys are learning more and more. But it's a real thing that's out there that, you know, but so back to sustainable fashion, what is that? Well, again, working with materials and dyes that won't hurt you or the planet, right? So that's more focused on the on the environmental impact, which, you know, like I said, I went to China, like the river flows like a tar pit. You can throw a match on it, the whole thing will just explode. But we had the same thing happen in Ohio River. It caught fire. We used to do clothing production here. Did you guys know that? That was way back when, before my time too. But if you look at the history of it, it just keeps occurring. We just keep moving it out. So it's not in our backyard, right? So what's the solution? Well, we got to clean up our manufacturing. We got to, as designers, start using new materials, right? And again, you'll find more and more, like Victoria's Secrets, again, in the news, was sued by 600 women for breast cancer. Because again, nylon, polyester, spandex bras, causing rashes, etc. You can look this up as well. You know, I think they settled it and said it was the underwire and the bra, which is not the whole truth. That does carry some radiation, etc. But again, these companies has big money, big PR company that help dispel those myths, they call them. But again, you got to look into this, right? That's why I'm trying to get you guys to think outside the box and look deeper into this. So back to the more fun part. Amber, are you back there? All right, so again, this is another project I did in Madeira Lace. You guys know where Madeira is? It's above Morocco. Portugal owns this island. Winston Churchill used to love this place. So Madeira Lace made all the tablecloths back in the day, like your probably great-grandparents had a Madeira Lace tablecloth when they had sat down for dinner. So you can see it here. So these ladies, that's indigo, by the way. So what they do, they take these scrolls out, lay the tablecloth made of linen, they take the scrolls out and they do indigo and put this pattern on there. And then these ladies in these villages would go in and just embroider, right? So about 6 months later, you'd have a 10 to 12 foot long tablecloth, So you can imagine that's not really conducive for today's society. I mean, who has sit-down dinners with beautiful linen embroidered tablecloths? I don't know anymore, right? Maybe I do, but I'm weird. So, but I did make, and this is a little bit of it, I do have gowns I made out of it. But the idea was they have these patterns in old scrolls. Imagine walking in this room as a designer, and you see thousands of scrolls, and each one has a unique pattern. It's been almost like hand painted from like 200 years ago. Like, guys, why aren't you doing something with this? So you take that pattern, put it on a dress, just use indigo. You don't need to hand embroider at all, right? They could embroider the edges, and that's what they did. So they can embroider the edges in a week, and then make a dress out of it, or a curtain, or something else, right? So we can still have these artisan, beautiful fabrics or ideas, but as designers, we should think through how can we apply it to today's world. Everyone's like, Jeff, you do kind of costume. Yeah, I do costume, and I work in film some too, and and these are like old world pieces. But I also do modern silhouettes. I can do anything. I'm doing the hemp boxer, right? I want every man to wear my hemp boxer. But the idea is that as a costume, as a designer, that you can get these ideas on a bigger level, right? So, but anyways, this is more of the jacket I took apart. So I know some of you guys are into this. People associate like recycling, upcycling, whatever term you want to give it, and as a sustainable option, right? Do you guys feel that that's good, more or less? Yeah, it's good. I mean, we're using fabric that's already been created. This was a Freemason's jacket, but it's cotton velour, basically, and it's gold, embroidery there. But think about the time period. After the Industrial Revolution, what happened? We all started using these synthetic fabrications and dyes. So should we recycle those? Should we turn those into new clothes? That's something I want you guys to think through, because if that's gonna harm the body, you probably shouldn't continue that cycle, right? And they call it closed loop, and a lot of your teachers may be talking about it because it's kind of in the news and whatever, but a closed loop system where we use everything that we have. But again, is that the best solution? I don't know. Is it like a hybrid versus a electric vehicle? I think so, because it doesn't solve the idea. The idea is we need to get plastic, nylon, polyester just out of here, like not touching us, not around us, not in the environment. That's the best thing, I think. But so anyways, we got silk chiffon. Yeah, I think that's it. Cool. Thank you, Amber. So we did this collection in Madeira, and we showed it in Lisbon in Portugal. And again, it was good to get that idea out there. So quickly, I'll go through some more. So as again, Charlotte said to stay away from the heavy stuff and the science stuff. So I'll just go into more as a designer, some of the creations, give you some thoughts. So James and Susie Cameron, they're good friends. They are also sustainable advocates, Avatar and all that. So they have this lifestyle. I always make Susie her gowns for the red carpet events and whatnot. She lives and breathes this idea. She has a great contest you guys should follow. And as design students, you should apply for it, because you have a contest every year for the Oscars in which you can submit your designs, and they pick one designer to work with. And sometimes I mentor them, sometimes I have other designers mentor them. And you make the gown for the red carpet. So they pick like a celebrity that's going to the Oscars, and they wear your dress. It's kind of cool, but it's another way. It says green dress for the red carpet. So you guys should look into that. So make a note on that, because it's great to get your name out there, to work with Susie. It's a great platform. So Livia and Colin Firth. Livia's another advocate. It's one of my silk hemp dresses dyed in indigo. but she's not an advocate. She also has a contest similar to Susie's, but it's in London. And they usually do it for another, like BAFTA or another, show. So this was in a publication called Green America. So it talks about the pesticides. You guys can see it. You heard about fireproofing and the baby clothes, all these chemicals that are added after the fact. Imagine like in the cars, right? They tell you this is anti-stain and anti-smell and anti-this. Well, that should be a trigger for you. Be like, oh, what does that mean? There's a chemical that makes it anti-stain, antibacterial, right? Hemp, the hemp boxers, go back to that. Guys, you can wear them for weeks and not wash them. Why? Porous in nature, they don't hold smells, they're antifungal, antibacterial. I promise you. I mean, I ride horses mine like for 10 days and I don't wash them. And because it's a natural porous fiber. Polyester, you drop a little water on the polyester, it beads up, falls off. It's not porous, right? They did studies, Adidas and, I shouldn't name, but these companies that make athletic wear. They sponsor these athletes, right? Tennis, you watch, anybody watch Wimbledon tennis, right? So I'm not gonna name names, but they're wearing their garments because they're sponsored by them, right? They did a study that on these athletes and they looked at their muscles as they're swinging and whatnot. Their muscles fatigue 25% faster wearing these polyester wickerware fabrics. Why? They're not breathable. Wickerware is basically where they spray with a chemical, drops on the polyester and spreads out and dries. That's what wickerware is. So again, I want you guys to think as a designer, what does that mean, right? So, and then there's some labeling there. There's so many labels now. What does that mean? You gotta look into that. There's all these different fabrics coming out as a designer that you can pick from. Is that the best option? Like bamboo, everyone asks me, is bamboo great, Jeff? Like, well, that's not the best solution. Why? Bamboo loses its tensile strength. It's a grass. It will rip apart. You put it on a hanger for a week, like a t-shirt, it's gonna just sag. You have to mix it with something, right? That's why you need to know what textile makeup, what it means. Hemp, again, the tensile strength is amazing. They're putting in F-150s now in the side panel. Wow, you can take a baseball bat to it. It's not gonna dent it. It's the strongest, all right? That's when I was younger and without a beard, but that's the indigo dye bat. You see that? See how big that is? Again, you don't have to recharge it. When you dip those boxers in, you don't have to dump it. You dip your boxers, and we could have done all your boxers in that tonight. Could recharge it and have it next year and still use it. That's the beauty of that. Quickly here, these are just some different, so you can see the different things I've created. That was my grandmother's quilt. I used that jacket there. That one's in the Smithsonian. But you can see the colors we're getting from the dyes. I told you about the purple tones, which logwood can get. You see the indigo. But yeah, that was at London Fashion Week. It's kind of dark, but that was shot here. This is cool. This is, you got your black chiffon and some black silk. And that was shot here. Here's some other pieces. This is at Chateau Fontainebleau, or show in Paris, Da Vinci collection. So I was like, ooh. And so I created things out of metal, right? So that corset, that skirt is copper. It's kind of neat. And then feathers, and then I always include a horse. I like to connect nature with every show. And to me, a horse is very grounding. The Rainforest Alliance, this is Giselle wearing the indigo ball gown. What I love about this is that, after all I've done, it took her wearing the dress to one event, and they were like, Giselle wears hemp. And then everybody's talking about hemp. It's funny, but that was great. She's a good advocate too. So that contest I was telling you about, so Kellen wore, I did a hemp tuxedo, and he wore that for the contest. So he was in Twilight, I don't know if you know. And then this, she wore the indigo chiffon dress, so I helped the designer make her design into fruition, bring it alive. But she designed it, so. Oh yeah, this is, see all the feathers on there, all hand stitched. I advise not to do that, it takes a long time. But this one is also in the Smithsonian. So Cara Delevingne, you guys know her. Yes, she's great. And then well, you saw a model. That's her there. But I just want to end it with this. I think, Charlotte, it's about time, right? So I know you guys can't read it, but it says the idea that sustainability augurs a lesser world is true in the sense it calls for less waste, pollution, harm, devastation, depleted soils, poisoned workers, dying bodies of water, etc. Sustainability is a forerunner of greater diversity and choices, not less. It offers meaningful work, greater multiplicity of livelihoods, the reinstitution of local production, a safer world, and lives worth living. Truly, the world of biomimicry and ecological design presage a transformation and innovation on an order we have not seen since the Industrial Revolution, and it is the responsibility of those who understand the metes and bounds of natural systems, both scientifically and economically, to lead the way and elucidate these possibilities. I know it's kind of like, I like using old English words, but so basically we could all be like Elon Musk and Tesla and revolutionize the fashion industry. You guys are young. You guys have so much ahead of you. So don't let me be the old guy from Tennessee that like fades away and you guys don't carry this vision forward, because we need it. So I hope I inspired you guys tonight a little bit and didn't get too heavy in the science of it. But I just wanted to show you what can be done. And like I said, the indigo, I don't know if you guys want to quickly, one of you guys want to go grab boxers from your team, just quickly. So the indigo like we used tonight, again, it was grown and raised here in Tennessee and processed here. And now they're dying for nudie jeans, you know. So again, another, just come up here on stage and show them. So this is the indigo here. So yeah, look at almost the color of your denim jacket. Can you show your canary yellows? Yeah, isn't that pretty? It's Princess Grace's favorite color, that color. Cool. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you guys learned something. I hope it was not too heavy and all that. So thank you for coming.
Jeff, I think we want to do a few Q&A.
Sure, yeah,
okay?
cool.
Hop back up?
Yeah, can do. Guys got any questions?
I was just wondering, you mentioned earlier, like, you have striped boxers as well. What's
Mm-hmm.
the dyeing process like for that?
The indigo stripe, they're done when the yarn is, you know, when they're put together, yeah. So it's at the textilers, yeah. So that would be hard. That, you know, you'd asked earlier about doing patterns and whatnot. Yeah, you could tape them off and do that, but obviously that would be a long time. So, yeah. Oh, sure, yeah, we'll do. Sorry. All right, any other question? You guys can ask about anything. Yeah. Sure. So she's asking if I ever had an idea or that I was having a hardship in bringing it to fruition, and in the dye world as well. So yeah, like I explained earlier, as a sustainable designer, you truly work with less options all the way around if you're true to that idea, that concept. So think about your packaging, to your fabrication, to your shipping, you know, it all has to be like a lifestyle viewpoint. So yeah, there's been plenty of colors. I wish I could have gotten that hue, but I went off tilt this way and I went off tilt this way. But in essence, like I said, as an artist, I love that mistake anyways, and I still used it. But I don't really do it properly. Like I don't test it on a bunch of fabrics. I just take my dress and go, here we go. So I commit. But in that process, that's how I'm driven. So I loved it. You know, like you saw in the video, the detox video, I was dyeing a dress, and then you saw the runway. Well, I love that mistake. It was supposed to be a different color, but you would never know that. So I think as a designer, you should just drive forward with your ideas, and some will work, some will not. But determination is key as a designer. There's so much out there to deter you. There's so much obstacles you're up against. Like, for example, we just did London Fashion Week. Everybody's like, don't do it, don't go, you know, everything's going on. But I'm glad we did a physical show. We were one of three, I think Burberry and another designer did it, but because it drove forward the idea that as artists, we help bridge gaps, whether there's, you know, slump in the economy or there's political stuff going on, whatever. We're artists. We need to uplift people. We need to bring life. You know, life would be boring without us. So yeah, okay, yes, you know, it's a real thing happening right now. But we followed the guidelines. We were able to do our show not as visually as I saw it. We had it at Thomas Good in England, which is they do dinnerware collections like for the Queen, King and Queen, like for centuries. And I did a plate design, my first dinnerware plate, which is cool. It's fine boon china now, and we did it along the table and had the models walk down the middle. But I told the models, if you break it, it's cool. We'll add to the drama. And it was Mad Hatter inspired. So I had a friend in Malibu, Teresa Foglia, make the hats to match the collection, and we pulled it off. But, you know, kind of like the audience tonight, we only had, you know, like 60 people there that could fit within the rooms to watch, you know, and that, you know, as you can imagine, you spend 6 months on these collections, dreaming and conceptualizing and making, and you're like, wow, that 15 minutes and that 60 people went quick. You know, and then you get depressed. I call it, you know, the walk of shame the next day. You carry your bags of your designs to the plane, and you're like, you know, but that's part of being an artist. You just have to keep moving forward. If you believe in what you believe in, you know, nobody else is going to believe for you. So you can ask my dad about how stubborn I am. Anyone else? Yeah.
I know that politically there's a lot of talk about like climate change, the Green New Deal, Paris Accords, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Do you think we're going to see those external factors come into play in sustainability and fashion, or do you think it's going to have to be completely internal?
So to rephrase it, he's saying there's obviously a lot of political things with, you know, then I don't know, Charlotte, can you give him the mic to re-ask that question? Because, huh? I don't think it was about COVID. I think it was more, can you just, oh, just hold it. He's got a mask.
So my question was like, there's obviously a lot of like political conversation about like Green New Deal, the Paris Accords, climate change, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that we're going to see those external factors or external conversations influencing the fashion industry and sustainability, or do you think it's going to have to be internal, like completely internally motivated?
Sure. So do you guys understand that? So, I mean, everything influences fashion, right? Politics to movies are coming out to whatever, that's going to have an infusion. And, you know, it depends. So I know this is not what you're asking, but let me, so there are a few designers like myself that are actually own their companies, design what they want to, fill it, and put it on a catwalk. I think Tom Ford still does it. Ralph Lauren has a design team. So you're seeing interpretation, right? There's very few that are actually the bucks, you know, buck stops here. They come up with an idea, a concept, and they put it on stage. With that said, those designers are kind of setting forth those trends, you should say, and then everyone else kind of follows suit on what's going on politically and/or. So I personally don't let that affect me. That's always been a thing going on. I try to bridge the gap because, you know, I was raised in Tennessee, and yes, I may be a hippie, but to me, it's not about politics. Everyone's affected by if our environment's damaged. You know, whether you're Christian, not Christian, whether you're, you know, right wing, left wing, has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with like, you know, helping not destroy things. And, you know, yes, but what happens is they pull out of that like little one-liners and they make it political when it shouldn't be. It should be simply like, hey, could this maybe hurt this? Or could this maybe, is there a better solution? And there are. So I think if the world would be different if, you know, problem solvers, designers would sit around a table and the problem would be presented and they solve it. Because it wouldn't be about all this other hidden stuff, if that makes sense. I'm not, you know, I don't get political, but it does have an influence. But I try to steer away. That's not why I'm doing this. I want to see, my mom passed away this November from breast cancer, but when she got it when I was in high school here at Lipscomb, well, that affected me. That's why I have an intimates collection that I'm selling, to everyone I can. But it's not because I want to sell it and make money. It's because I want everyone to have the opportunity to wear something naturally that may or may not cause cancer. I want to give back the power of choice. Right now, you look at on the shelves, you're only finding synthetic. And those natural things have been taken off the shelves in my lifetime. Before, when people were doing yoga, they were wearing these big baggy hemp pants. Now you go to yoga class and they're wearing all the Lululemon, the tight, stretchy spandex stuff. Well, I live in Malibu half the year. These girls are drinking juices every day, wearing these outfits, and they're young and healthy, but they're breaking out on their backs with dermatitis. Well, there's TDI in spandex. This is science, quickly. There's a chemical toxin called TDI in spandex that causes that, but they may or may not know that. So again, there's all these synergy of effects, and we as designers need to know that. So I hope does that kind of answer it? Okay. Anyone else? Yeah.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice whenever you're starting out, what would it be?
So asking if I was younger and give myself advice, what would it be? Take that job with Ralph Lauren. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't know. I mean, definitely. Well, I'm trying to put it in perspective because your time now is different from my time then. I think it's harder now to find traction because of the noise generated by your social media channels. And it's so easy to mask in those channels. It's so distant. Back in my day, cell phones just were coming out, but you still had personal eye-to-eye contact, communication, and things were different then. Now you can mask things and nobody really knows, That's the other thing in fashion. You put what, I could say this is made of hemp, but, if say it was made of something else like, polyester, I could put 100% hemp in there and nobody is going to check it or tell me, right? So unfortunately, there's not that ethical. So if you're, so the idea is to stay true to self as a designer. That's the quick answer. Stay true to self. If you have that idea, that vision, that passion, follow it. And don't let anybody deter you. And there's no one right pathway to get there, believe me, especially in fashion. And it's just all by, you saw the Cara Delevingne picture. So quickly, this would be an inspirational thing. So I was here in Nashville. I got asked to do my first show in London Fashion Week. So you get vetted, and they asked me. So I called up my buddy Phil. And again, I was doing the band design at the time. And my buddy Phil was in this band called Newsboys. It was a Christian band here in town. It was a local one. But I also had another buddy named Phil that was in another band called Def Leppard. Well, I thought I was calling Phil from the Christian band. I said, "Hey, Phil, I just got asked to do London Fashion Week. Would you do the show?" And then he says, "Yeah, righty, man." And I knew. So one was from Australia, one's from England. And I was like, "Wait a minute, that's not that Phil, that's that Phil." But he just said yes. It's like, wow. I mean, Def Leppard's going to do my show? I had no idea. And he was serious about it. And then I was like, "Can you play Brown Sugar or something?" He's like, "Jeff, that's not our song." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, all right." So, and I told him the story and he laughs because, it's just me calling out the wrong number. I looked at my phone. So here I have Def Leppard opening my first catwalk in London. And then Cara Delevingne comes to my casting, said, "I heard about you and I'd love to do your show. I don't care what my agents say." I'm like, "Okay, I can't afford you." And she's like, "Don't worry about it." So, I mean, obviously I paid her what I was paying the other models, but it wasn't what she deserved to get paid for who she was. So don't know how these things happen, right? But here I come, this little boy from Tennessee, opening up London Fashion Week with, Phil coming out. This is funny, quickly. So I put Cara in this Gone with the Wind, beautiful old antebellum, morning gown, walking down, looking dark makeup, looking down. And I kept the catwalk really dark, and photographers hate it. They want it bright like this so they can get a good picture, right? Kept it down, and you hear the photographers and my publicist is like, "I'm gonna kill you, Jeff." They started yelling, "Lights, lights," and I was like, "No." And then as she got to the end of the runway, and all of a sudden Phil goes in, and then lights go up, and it just went bam, and it was so cool. And it's the first time too they've had like a live band. It was at the Freemasons Hall in London, which is ironic because I use a Freemasons jacket. And I had to get special permission to have live music, right? So again, don't let these little things stop you. Just keep going, and you never know what will happen. So, somebody else have it? Yeah.
You mentioned earlier how, because of your focus on sustainability, whenever you go to design a collection, your choices for fabric can be limited. So I was just wondering if you had ever given thought to producing your own fabric for a collection.
Yes, I have. So she's asking if I've ever thought about making my own textile fabrication for production, and I have. The complication with that is that you need to meet X amount of yardage. So typically it's around 1,500 yards, which is a lot of garments. But for something like the hemp boxers that I'm doing now and the underwear stuff, I could do that number because we're selling, commercially. With the artisan pieces, the dresses are one of a kind. So that's more development stuff. When I first started, you could understand there was hardly any fabrics I really could work with. And I just begged them. I said, "Will you please mix this with hemp? I promise you one day it will take off." And they looked at me cross-eyed. So what I did was I leveraged my buying power for the band merchandise, which was t-shirt fabric. Against that, I said, "I'll give you this order if you do this for me." And that's how I leveraged it. Because bottom line, the fashion industry is all about economics, making money. So these guys would love to do me a favor as a textile, but developing a fabric costs some money. So, but now they're happy they did some of these fabrics because they're now like, they were known early on as providing this fabric. And so people stuck with them. And so they gained a lot of that business, right? Anybody else?
I have a couple from online. Do we want to go there?
Yeah, sure.
So Connor and Kim both have a similar question. They're both online, and it has to do with price point of sustainable goods.
Sure.
So as almost like an everyday consumer, what is the best way
Sure.
for them to participate if the price point is out of their reach?
Got it. And this question comes up all the time, especially, we're all young and in college at one point, and you guys are. So budget's important, right? You only have X amount to work with a month. There's so much date money, so much whatever, food money. Here's the thing. Again, if you look in your wardrobe and closets, which all of you, I assume most of you probably have more than one pair of denim, maybe, right? Okay. So my argument is simply this: don't buy all these extras, save up for that one piece. If you have an overcoat of hemp, right? If you guys say you wanted this coat that I'm wearing, ladies, you wanted the waistcoat or something, right? You'd have to save, this would be like $300. Why? It's made of hemp, it's dyed naturally. That's probably the best price it can make. That's expensive. If you go to H&M, you're buying something similar for $80, $90. There's no way I can compete with that price. But again, it's back to true price point. Mine's a true price point. I'm charging 20% over my COG, whatever, to make enough money to stay in business. But it's because of plant-based dyes plus fabrication, again, 10 to 1. If H&M's is made of polyester nylon, mine's made of hemp, there is $1 fabric, mine's $10. Make the difference. So if you want to start dressing sustainably, you have to save for that one piece. But that piece, I'm going to pass this down to my kid one day, right? It will last forever. That's the idea of it. But it's not quick throwaway. So, yeah, there is that. There's no way I could ever bring my jacket down to that price point and stay in business. So, again, there's a disconnect on true price point. T-shirts should be $30 or $40, not $7. There's no way I can't even buy the fabric for $7 to make that t-shirt. It takes about 3/4 of a yard. No way. So there has to be this idea that of the true price point, and we let go of that addiction in fast fashion. But do you want that T-shirt? They wash out 7 times. It's called design obsolescence. They teach this in a lot of design schools, but you design a product to fall apart. So after 7 washes, it's obsolete. People throw away their garments within a month usage. It used to be 7 years, now it's 3 months or a month. That's not a good cycle. Why? Because of the 13 million tons of fabric, of garments we dump a year. So, yeah.
Amazing. Along the same lines, someone is asking about secondhand. You mentioned that it wasn't the best option. What should we do with the existing synthetic fabrics? It just seems so wasteful to throw them in a landfill.
Exactly. That is that's the dynamic, right? We should never produce them to begin with. It is a shame to put them in a landfill. There are some technology being developed now to where they basically, more or less, they put it in a chamber and it runs so hot that it can zap it back to the original form, so gas or liquid. And so they're using this technology to eventually get rid of all our landfills. So I don't know if you guys know Denmark has no trash. But we need our governments to support these. The machines cost a lot of money and da-da-da. They're talking about putting them on ships and going out the ocean, and they can lift all that trash, plastic you hear about, and they can incinerate it. They're just incinerators, basically. So that can be taken care of. It's like, what's the lesser evil? More of that in the landfill, or have that on your bodies and still off-gassing? I'm more, I like humans. I want you guys to be around forever. So that's where I would say let's leave it in landfill, and they'll get the technology and take care of that, because it shouldn't be continued recycled on our bodies if it's not a natural fiber. So, anybody else? All right.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You have been such a pleasure. It has been such a wealth of knowledge. I feel like I need to not apologize, but it's so disappointing that we didn't have any livestock at this show. I feel like every show that I've been at of yours has some form of livestock.
I could have brought the donkey, the miniature donkey from the farm. He's cute, but he'd leave little pebbles around.
Speaking of livestock, and also when you talk about the models at this most recent London show, and you made the China, and you said, if it breaks, it's no big deal. It's part of the drama. Yeah. Speaking of livestock, my favorite show that I've been at of yours, do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, which one?
So it was right outside, it's on 8th Avenue.
Oh, the Standard.
The Standard, right outside the Standard on 8th Avenue. He shut down the entire street, showed the documentary on the side of a building.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then his entrance, he rappelled off of the side of the building onto the horse.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do that. The model did that.
Oh,
I might have done it later that night. But
I was like, I remember seeing you hanging off the side of the building.
Yeah, I did do that in another show. But we had the model rappel down, who was horsey, and she landed in the saddle. The horse was trained. Daystar was her name. And then she went down the runway and had people walking down, and she put flowers in their guns and created this peaceful. But what I didn't practice was the cameras going all off at once. The horse didn't practice that, so she just dropped her load right on the runway.
Right in front of James and Susie Cameron.
Yeah, so the bodyguard had to go out and cover the, lovely manure.
Well, and when you came out, you were like, well, it's natural.
Yeah.
It's completely organic.
Yeah, models had to walk around it. That was a good show.
Oh, it was a great show.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Thank you, guys.
And thank you.